into the Hall of Fame Dynasty podcast. I am excited for tonight because I finally have Mac on. It's been the longest time, and we are going to be going over his Minnesota Twins from the MLB. And he is a team that was pretty exciting last year. Then he fell off near the end, but I think 2020 is going to hold a lot of fun and a lot of surprises for him. So why don't I bring Mac in? How you doing tonight, Mac?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm excited as well. It's been a while since we've talked. I've been on, and I'm excited to talk about my Twins because last year didn't go super well. I did the classic Mac thing last year where I struggled. I almost limped my way into the playoffs, and then I would have lost in the first round, but I didn't make it last year. But this year, hopefully, it'll be different. But, oh, man. I'm just excited to be back. Listen to Chris's. Chris is less optimistic than I thought he was going to be. Ninth place, he said? I'll be better than ninth place. I know I'll beat Chris. You'd say Chris will be in last, which I think Chris will also be in last because he doesn't know how to handle a team. But, I think I'll outperform him. So starting off with a bat there, just had to give a little jab to Chris.
I agree with you there. And I have him in last just because he's got some decent players, but he's also got some players that are wild cards, and I agree with what he said that he could finish in ninth ahead of Vic if Vic doesn't set his lineup. So that's really the wild card there as well. But I think He's got a chance, like I said in the last episode, where if he doesn't compete the way he would want to, he has some decent guys that he could sell off for a couple of prospects. But yeah, his team is pretty brutal. So it was a hard one to do. I figure if we can get through the worst teams, it's going to be a little bit easier as we go along. There's more to talk about. And there's a lot to talk about with your Twins. So before we get into your team, your real-life Twins were fucking stellar last year. The fact that they hit the most amount of home runs, I think 309 or 310 home runs in all of MLB, just ahead of the Yankees. And I thought they were going to regress, but then obviously they signed somebody like Josh Donaldson to play at third, which moves Miguel Sano over to first and keeps that lineup just as dangerous, honestly.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be – I'm excited for this year for the Twins. I remember my senior year of high school, we lost 100-some games that year. And I DM'd the Twins during the off season as a joke to post on my Twitter. And I DM'd the Twins. I was like, "Hey, if we're gonna lose 100 games, let's at least shoot for the record and lose 120 or something."
Well, and it was crazy because they came back so strong the very next year.
It was so strong. It was crazy. Like I looked like an idiot after that tweet. Like that tweet did not age well. It's old. It's old takes exposed or frozen takes exposed or something like that. Should have been on that Twitter account. But oh my god, yeah, we came out hot after that.
Yeah, there was no way I saw that coming. Nobody expected that. It was almost the White Sox 2005 where they were projected for fourth and ended up winning it all. But your Minnesota Twins are set up pretty good for in real life. So why don't we get into your Twins here, who finished in 8th place last year, just short of 100 wins, with 98 wins, 144 losses, and 10 ties. Most of us were around that 10 tie, 12 tie mark, just obviously things like stolen bases or runs every once in a while that happens. But honestly, not a bad season for your Twins. You weren't far behind some of the other teams. You really weren't that far out from a playoff spot. So you were pretty active this offseason in gaining players to help you make that push over 100 wins and hopefully into the playoffs. Some of the smaller names that you acquired were Yasiel Puig, Eric Pardinho, Riley Green, Kyle Tucker, who, he's a middle of the road depending on how you look at it because he's still a prospect in most eyes. And then Miguel Sano. Those were some of the smaller names you acquired. I like Eric Pardinho and Riley Green for your farm system. Pardinho did just have Tommy John surgery. I didn't know if you had seen that.
I'm not, but I just assume every pitcher in the farm that I get or acquire is going to get Tommy John surgery. So at this point, I think everyone I've owned has had Tommy John surgery. So yeah, nothing really there. I didn't know that, but I'm not shocked or surprised.
And it's a fairly common thing nowadays. It's hard to find a pitcher that hasn't had one, and especially him being 18 years old, I would not be worried about it. The guy's he was already throwing 94, 95, so he's going to come back even stronger. Maybe could come close to the triple digits, especially as he grows. But the two biggest names you acquired this offseason, which was crazy that you were able to get both of them, was Justin Verlander and Christian Yelich. Verlander coming from me in one of our deals, and then Christian Yelich obviously was your biggest deal. And so...
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's hard to... I'm trying to think of how I want to word it, but obviously you're excited for these two players. Who are you more excited to own this year between Yelich and Verlander?
You know, it's tough because Yelich, dynasty-wise, Verlander's what? Verlander's old now. He's obviously he's up there, way up there, 36. So Yelich overall, I'm more excited about probably just because of what I can see down the road. This year, Verlander will be a big help. And Yelich, Yelich is Yelich, and I'm pumped to have him. Strong, younger bat in the outfield. There for me, I have a problem with. I'm 28, so not terribly young, but still. I have a problem with hoarding outfielders, so he's one that's going to have to stay and get rid of some of these other ones. But I think I'm more excited for him. Verlander will be good because I lost. We'll get into that. I lost Scherzer. Yeah, there we go. Jeez, I'm turning to Chris here. But yeah, I lost him during the offseason, but to get Verlander.
Oh, yeah, and between the two, obviously the easier one to say is Christian Yelich. You'll be able to watch him longer. Mm-hmm. He'll have a longer effect on your team. But Verlander's a great get, and he's one that's fun to watch because you can always, when he's going to pitch. If you wanted to watch his game, you could easily turn it on versus you're going to get 145, 155 games out of Yelich. You can turn on his game anytime. And he may have days where he's going to go 0 for 4 or 1 for 4 where it's not exciting. But anytime Verlander takes the mound, it's going to be a fun night. So it's pretty torn, and especially the way he performed last year with an ERA under 3, taking home, I believe it was his second Cy Young. And because I know he had one before, so I believe it's his second. So you needed some pitching help, not a lot, but he's a good get for your team there. So Yelich is obviously the better one long-term wise, but Verlander's more exciting for a single season, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And if I'm trying to make a push this year, get my way into the playoffs a little bit, he'll be perfect.
So when it comes to players that you lost, you really didn't lose too many big names. We'll start with the small ones first. Brent Honeywell Jr., he's a guy that I've loved since he came into the league, but the Rays dicked him around and he's gotten hurt. Luke Weaver, who was a big surprise last year, and Gavin Lux was recently with our trade. And Gavin Lux, I think, is going to be a big name, as much as concerned as where he's going to hit in that lineup. And he's a guy that it's so hard to say what he's going to do because, sure, he might hit 6th in that lineup, but even if he bats 8th in the Dodgers lineup, it's still the Dodgers lineup, and they're going to put up good stats.
Exactly. Like, that trade for me on paper, looking at my team, trading a middle infielder when I need a middle infielder help probably wasn't the smartest idea. However, if once we hit, we'll probably do season preview football.
Oh, yeah.
I'd assume. So we'll go in there. You'll see more of why I made trades like that because my football team is unstoppable. We're going all the way. Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. But, I think in the long run it'll be fine for me. I think, middle infielders at least. I don't know. I need help there, obviously. I brought an outfielder, which I don't need more outfielders. But I think football-wise, it'll be a good move because I think football, it's hard to come across. We'll talk about this later, but football is a sport in which if you want to compete, you need top-tier talent across the board. In baseball, you don't necessarily need top-tier talent across the entire board. You can be a little back in a couple positions there, so there's more leeway in baseball. So I was okay with giving up a middle infielder when I do.
And that makes sense, especially it's not like you brought in an old outfielder. You brought in a young guy who's pretty exciting among most circles. And he's a very volatile. Volatile is not the word I want to say, but what's the word? Controversial.
Hit or miss, I guess.
Because some people say he's going to be great. Some think he's going to struggle, especially with the recent scandal of the Astros. But he's a guy that I really like. It was hard to give him up because he could be a 30 home run and 15 stolen base guy. But it is what it is. And then, so the biggest two guys that you gave up were Max Scherzer and Aaron Judge. Two really high guys. Obviously, Scherzer on the older end and kind of ties in with Justin Verlander. And then Aaron Judge being the biggest in all of in terms of Dynasty, one of the guys you gave up, that had to be tough for you. But like you mentioned, it helped your football team. Are you worried that giving up Judge hurt your outfield situation, even though you have so many?
Sometimes people always argue quantity over quality. And right now, I'm obviously going for the quantity part in my outfield. I think I've rostered 17 eligible outfielders. So there's going to be a diamond in the rough there somewhere. It's got to figure it out along the way. There might be an Aaron Judge hidden in my enormous collection of outfielders. Who knows? I have no idea because I don't really know much about baseball. But, losing him is always tough. He's a big name, huge name. But it helped. I was trying to go football heavy. Football is a fun fantasy league, the season's short, unlike baseball. So if you want to compete, you gotta make big moves quick. And Aaron Judge is a guy that will move the needle in trade situations. And when you're talking trade, so I had to get rid of him. Not didn't have to, but it was easy to, in the sense that he moves the needle, like I said, and people will buy immediately if you throw his name out there. People will hit you up right away for trades. So I needed to do that to get some help in NFL, so it was worth it. And like I said, I have, I think, 17, 18 eligible outfielders, a couple that play third base as well, or third base eligible. But I think with that quantity I have, I think I'll be okay in the long run.
And especially acquiring Yelich, I don't think you'll really be missing Judge too much. Yelich is the obvious upgrade over Judge. He provides speed. He provides a better average. So you really won't be hurting too much at first. So I think losing Judge hurt, but you were able to make up with that with Yelich later on.
That Yelich trade was great. You gotta love it. Gotta love it when you go look back at that, who I gave up. Tristan Thompson, great center in the NBA. It's hard to give him up. We can do NBA preview next year.
I do want to do one for each season, just because that way it helps hype everyone else up, and it makes it a lot more fun.
I like it. It's a great idea.
So there are a few guys that I feel are kind of controversial on your team, or at least I want to get your thoughts on them. We'll start with Tim Anderson, partly because I'm a White Sox fan, but also the batting champion in the AL last year. Hit for 330, and I don't think he's going to repeat that this year. I still think he can be a very valuable fantasy player, because he's a guy that, even though he wants to bat seventh in the White Sox lineup, that's where he felt comfortable. That's where, and it obviously paid off for him as he rode his way to a 330 batting average, his best OPS in years. He's never a guy that's going to walk a lot, but if he's slugging 500 and being able to hit 280, 290, I'd assume you'd absolutely take that out of a shortstop for your middle infielder shortstop position. Yeah. Where do you think he falls this year? Because right now Fantrax has him as a 273 hitter, but 20 home runs, 20 stolen bases, and almost triple digits in runs.
Yeah, and which is, I'm hoping to see his average not fall off that much. Maybe just a little closer to 280, because averages sometimes, I hurt there a little bit. So I would like to see his average stay a little up. Obviously his 330 is what you said. 335 I think is exactly what it was last year. But I don't think it's going to stay there necessarily. That's an incredible peak, but I hope it doesn't fall off. That's that 0.06 points to 270. So I'm hoping maybe 280 in there. But like I said, gotta love the steals. He had 17 stolen bases last year, 26 a year before. So a 20 home run, 20 stolen base slash is perfect for my team, because stolen bases is somewhere I think my first year I lost that category. If we were to look way back, I was terrible. Didn't really even think about it. And I was like, oh, like shit, stolen bases is a category in this league. And so getting people that will get 20 stolen bases like that's perfect, and it's 20 home run slash with hopefully around 280, 285 average.
I could see that, and it's especially stolen bases. You could punt the category if you wanted, but I like how you're trying to stay competitive. You have guys across the board who can chip in 20 steals, like Elvis Andrus, Christian Yelich, and then you've got some that are a handful here, some that are double digits around the 10, 12 mark. So you've got the ability to stay competitive depending on who you're facing. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And it used to be a category in which, it's tough. I never won a category where it's an automatic loss, and stolen bases used to be a scratch-up, just automatic loss from each category each week. So now I've got some people that will help at least be a little bit more competitive in that
Which category. I like. And one of the guys that can possibly chip in 10 steals if he's able to get on base enough is Rougned Odor. He's a guy that I've never wanted to own in any leagues, but you have him. You need the help at middle infield. And especially with a guy like Christian Yelich on your team, Rougned Odor is a guy that he could be very valuable because you have the ability to balance out his average. And he had a really bad average last year, but at the same time, his BABIP was, I think, somewhere around 260, 250, and league average is 300. Not everybody's going to have a 300 average on batted balls in play, but he has that ability. It should bounce back. 30 home runs last year, 11 stolen bases. Even if he bounces back to 2018 where he hits with a 250 average, he could put up 30 home runs, 15 stolen bases because he's on base more often, and he could be pretty valuable. He just has to get that average back up. So, are you excited for him? Are you nervous for him? How do you feel about Odor for 2020?
I'm going to say this right off the bat. I've pronounced this guy's name one way the entire time. I know it's wrong. I call him Roughened Odor. I know it's the wrong way to say his name, but that's the only way I ever said it and will ever say it. So I'm probably going to refer to him as that throughout this podcast. But yes, his average was brutal last year. I told you, he was terrible to start. If I remember, he was absolutely terrible to start the year. I think he was a guy like would try to not play to start the year. If I remember correctly, I might be totally wrong. But the 30 home runs, if he can keep that pace, he got solid amount of RBIs last year. Just another guy that will give me some stolen bases, and if he can keep that 30 home run around there, which he's done he had 33 in 2016, 30 in 2017, fell off a little in 2018, but he saw a few less at bats there, a few less games played, and then 30 in 2019. So I think I don't know. You have your reasons for not ever wanting to own him. I don't know why. But Roughened Odor, I think he's one of the guys that stayed on my team this entire 3 years we've been doing this so far. And I know I've owned him in other leagues. I have no idea why. I think it's because his name is intriguing to me. So I'm like, oh, that guy's got a kind of an intriguing name. I guess I'll pick him up. But I'm not too worried about him unless his average is brutal, like you said. But I think he can maybe pick that up a little bit. 205. He's bad. I guess well, look at this here. I'll say he's on 271 in what is that? 271 in 2016. Goes down to 204 the next year, 253 the next year, 205 the next year. So if he's I see a pattern emerging here. And the pattern is for an up year.
Yeah, if you follow the trend, it's bound to happen.
You follow the trend, it's bound to go up. So I'm gonna say his average is gonna be higher, and we'll see. Hopefully another round.
I'll be interested to see how the new stadium for him plays as well, because the Rangers do have their new stadium, even though they tried to burn it down that first week once it finally opened. But he did have a terrible first half. He batted under 200. His second half was slightly better. It was really similar, though, 218 batting average. His on-base was a lot better, as was his slugging, so that improved for him. So, and he, like you said, the trend is every other year for him. It's a possibility. And even if he bounces back, he could slot in as your second baseman or your middle infield. You've got some guys, so you're not relying on him, so that's a good thing for you. You don't have to have him in your starting lineup, but if he has a good year, you're going to be able to slot him in, which is great.
Oh yeah. I think I was close to dropping him last year, anyways. But I was like, hey, Roughened Odor's always been good to me, so I'll keep Roughened Odor around, and hopefully this year he's good to me. Because I
do like that name though, because when he sucks and he stinks. So I definitely like the new name of Roughened Odor. It is great.
That's why I seriously I thought for the longest time there was an H in there. Until probably last year. I was like, wait, there's not an H in his name? Like, I knew his name wasn't Roughened Odor. I knew it was something different than that, but I honestly, God, thought there was.
I don't blame you. If you quick glance, it's absolutely a possibility. So,
doesn't he have a brother too, or something?
Yeah, he does have a brother, and he's also in the Texas Rangers organization. So in Fantrax, they have in parentheses minors next to it, so you know which one. So the last player that I want to talk about that had a rough year for you last year is Craig Kimbrell, and that's another tough name that so many people screw up. But Craig Kimbrell, obviously he missed half a season. Finally signed with the Cubs in July once the draft happened. Or actually, sorry, June. In June, once the draft happened, they called him up about 3 weeks after that, I believe, and he just did not look the same. But, I mean, he's a relief pitcher. They usually need as many innings as they can in preseason or spring training and early on in the season. So for him to come back, it was tough, and especially with the way that the ball was so different compared to 2018, I wouldn't doubt if that had a big reason on him, because he just gave up home run after home run after home run. And I'll pull it up here because it was... So he only pitched 20 innings. He had 30 strikeouts. Strikeout numbers are decent, but he got hit all over the place. And in 20 innings, he gave up 9 home runs. So 1 home run every inning. Every other inning, sorry. And, I mean, the walks were a little high, but I think a lot of it was just him not being warmed up and the ball being different compared to the year before. And what do you think? Yeah. Do you think he's going to bounce back? Do you think he's going to be able to be an asset? Do you think you're going to struggle with him this year? How do you feel about him?
You know, what's tough is I know I acquired him through trade, hoping to get a good reliever, because I didn't have a stellar one. I didn't have a what do you call it's a reliever that's going to be good, like a Kimbrel, or you look back and you look at Rivera or something like that. I'm not
equating no one's Mariano Rivera.
You know that. But you know what I mean. Where you know he's going to be a solid reliever, a solid go-to closer every single year. And you know there's not many of those in fantasy. You know teams will switch it up. We can talk about Knable later, but it's. I hope he bounces back because I acquired him. Hopefully he would be a great closer for me. But it was tough to see him just wait that out last year and then come back in and just suck really bad. But if you look at his track record, he's good. And one off year where it wasn't like it was injury or anything. He was just kind of rusty. It was just kind of and like you said, the ball was a little different. So I don't think there's necessarily huge concern because it wasn't like an injury, like I said. But I'm hoping he can come back. At least return back to form. I'm not going to say he's going to be stronger or better. I at least just hope it's a return to form.
Right. And if it makes you feel any better, I'm pulling up actually his PECOTA projections that they have for him on a normal year for 2020, if it'll finish pulling up here. They do have him around like a 3.8 ERA, which not great as a closer, but they do have him around, let's see, it's losses, saves, all that.
They got Fantrax has him at 37 saves.
Right, yeah, they have 37 saves. They've got him at 87 strikeouts, and right about 30 walks. So not a great walk to strikeout ratio, but he's going to be close at triple digits in strikeouts, a decent ERA, and so I think he's going to be valuable. The Cubs should improve from last year. I mean, they were not a bad team, but they just weren't. That offense wasn't as great as everyone expected, and I think he's going to be valuable, much more valuable than last year with an ERA over 6.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And I hope he comes back and wants to prove people, wrong, or even you might be talking shit because I took half that year off and whatnot and it sucked coming back. Hopefully he's got a little edge to him, a little meanness, getting pissed about that, so maybe comes out stronger. Let's hope.
I think he will. So why don't we move on to 2 call-ups? Really, you don't have any bats that are looking to be called up unless something really crazy happens with them. But you have 2 pitchers that are pretty exciting in Mitch Keller and AJ Puk. Personally, I'm more excited for AJ Puk because he's got a nasty slider and he looks to be a lot of fun. He may end up in the bullpen at some point if he can't find his control, because he had some problems with his control in the minors, but I think he's more exciting long-term in Dynasty. Mitch Keller is more of a safer guy, and especially the Pirates, nobody really pays attention to them. The A's have been more exciting. Who are you more excited for 2020 and beyond?
I've got to say Puk because I've held him the entire time. He's a guy that I picked up when me and you met in leagues previous to this that I'm now no longer a part of. I think I was in 3 MLB leagues at one point, which I paid no attention to baseball. And I'm going to do 3 Dynasty baseball leagues. But I owned him every single one. I, for some reason, latched onto him and liked him a lot. I think it's because he's super tall. And interesting looking. He's got the long hair, and he was projected to be good. I'm like, I kind of like this guy. Like, I don't know what about him, but he seems like he's gonna be good. I like how tall he is.
Yeah, he's 6'7".
Tall. He's like, he's up there. So I was like, I kind of like this guy. So I think just like, emotions wise, it means more to me just because I've held on to him for so long, and I think it's once again looking at my minor system here. I remember when we started this league, I think it was this one where I picked up probably majority pitching in the minors. And now I've only got, 5 sitting there? So I've traded off a lot of them. I think Ian Anderson and Puck are the only ones still here. So I like Puck. I'm excited to see him and watch and just waiting for him to grow over the years because it's been like 3 years now, and I know I picked him up right away. So I'm excited. I think I'm more excited for him. No hate to Mitch Keller, obviously, but I think Puck just means a little more.
I understand that, and especially when it comes to sentimental value and guys that you're excited to see. I could completely understand Puck because I know I've inquired. I know I'm probably not the only one that's inquired on him. So Puck should, and they did say he doesn't have any innings limits right now. I think they'll probably limit him to like 170. They'll probably want to keep him for the playoffs because they have a good chance of making the playoffs this year, but he'll be a part of a very exciting rotation with Manaea and Luzardo. Montas, when he comes, obviously he'll be back, and then Puck will be at the end of the rotation, but he'll be a damn good 5 compared to most teams' 5. So
Exactly, and he's like, we started this is the first league we all started, so he'll be my first prospect, I think, that I've watched throughout and to then come up to the big leagues. I think he's the first one. I'm looking through my hitters here. I'm pretty sure Diaz might be the first one actually, but I think
you did too. That or a free agent pickup because he was not owned consistently.
Yeah, so I think that was no. So I think Puck is the first one that for me I've watched the entire time and been waiting to pull up. I think I've traded away the rest of them. So that'll be exciting. That's why
I get that. So why don't we move on to the strength of your team? And this should be no surprise. A quick glance at your team makes it fairly obvious. The strength of your team is on your offensive side with home runs and OPS. You've got 6 players projected for 30-plus home runs in 2020, and if you were to expand that out to 20 home runs as the benchmark, you have 14 players in your offense that are likely to hit 20-plus home runs, and you've got a few that are just below that, like Jorge Alfaro is projected for 18. Quick glance here. Asdrubal Cabrera is projected for 17, but home runs, obviously power is your strength, and it does tie into OPS because of slugging. So those are your 2 best, and especially power. Even though you traded Judge, it doesn't look like it's going to matter too much.
No, coming into this league to start not knowing much about baseball. I know stuff about. I played baseball as a kid. It's not like I don't know anything, but not knowing much about like the logistics and stuff like that of fantasy. I love home runs. Runs, obviously. So I picked up. Who doesn't? Exactly. So I picked up Joey Gallo. I read on Reddit one time, Luke Voit is kind of like Joey Gallo. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get Luke Voit now. So the next day traded for Luke Voit. I think it was some sort of what's the word? Kind of God, I can't think of it. Upset, like I was kind of obsessed with the home runs and the big hitters. Like I love Joey Gallo because he hurts fantasy wise because his average is so crap. But he hurts average a lot, and I was like, well, it's funny. He swings at everything. He always is swinging for home runs. It's enjoyable. I'm gonna pick him up. Maybe it's not the best business decision. However, he's so fun to watch. I was like, I'm gonna pick him up. Like I said, I heard Luke Voit was like Joey Gallo. I was like, shit, might as well go get him. Yeah, I always look at that first little home run category as where this guy's gonna sit. So I think I kind of fall into that where like when I'm looking at through a guy's team, the first numbers I'm seeing is home runs. For some reason, that's the first ones my eyes go to. So I kind of look through that first as a parameter, and then I'm like, oh wait, there's a lot more categories than just home runs. So I look through there, but I think that's just kind of causes me to kind of attract towards guys that
well, and that's not a bad thing though, because obviously the more home runs you hit, the more runs and RBIs you're going to score. So that's great for our league, especially somebody like Joey Gallo though is a bit underrated in our league because with us using OPS, he is a guy that does walk a ton, so he's always going to have I don't want to say stellar on base, but because of his average, it's obviously lower. But because he does walk a ton, he's always going to be a 330, 340, 350 type guy. And last season, he changed his swing a bit, and we saw that with a 250 average, a 389 on base, and almost a 600 slugging. So that was his best year, a 986 OPS. He's never been that high, but obviously the change was tangible, and if he can even stay at a 240, he's going to be a 900 OPS and a huge value.
Oh yeah. And I think I didn't own him in this league, so I know I had to go out and trade for him as well, just because I think it was the end of the first year. I was like, hey, who owns Joey Gallo? All right, we're talking trade the second we can, second the season's up. And I think that was from Keith, actually.
I don't remember. Gallo, though, he's a guy that is a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I know for a fact I traded for him though, just because he's a lot of fun to watch and just kind of looked at. What was it? He had never had a sack fly until last year.
He's also got more home runs. He's also got more home runs in his career than singles, which is absolutely stupidly insane. But
he's a ton of fun. I'm about to get Joey Gallo.
That's what happens when you just crush the shit out of the ball every time you hit it.
Except you're looking to crush the shit out of the ball. You're not looking to put one, in between third and short or first and second, kind of put one, get a double right there. He's looking to crush the shit out of the ball.
So moving over to the pitching side, you do have two categories that you're pretty strong on, which are a good basis to have your pitching build on, which is strikeouts and walks. You have a good amount of strikeouts. Obviously, it's going to change a little bit with Clevenger being out for the first month or so of the season, but you have Justin Verlander, you have Robbie Ray, even German Marquez, who had struggled at times last year. He's a high strikeout guy. Chris Paddock has that ability, and Reynaldo Lopez he's where you really start to dip below the 9K per 9, but you have guys that in Mitch Keller and AJ Puck who have higher strikeout rates, so that's a big advantage for your team, and you have guys that are solid control guys as well in that same vein, especially on your relief side. Tony Watson, Corey Knebel, Shane Green, they're going to pile up some decent strikeouts, but they're not going to allow a lot of walks. So it's a good way to build your pitching staff, because the more strikeouts you have, the less walks you have, the less likely you are to give up free runs.
Yep. And I fall into the same trap of when I'm looking at other people's pitching, I look at their strikeouts right away, and I horse blinders on. I basically just look at that, and then maybe look over ERA. If I'm being totally honest, I just kind of look at the strikeouts and then look at their age. I'm like, all right, works out. And that's how I go about trading pitching. So if anybody knows of people that are young and have high strikeout rates, and they want to sell them, come right to me, because that's all I look at. And be like, all right, perfect. Who do you want? I have loads of outfielders, so if you need any outfield help, please hit my DMs, because I have far too many. But yeah, I just look right at the strikeouts right away, and so that's why I think I do good in strikeouts, because I kind of just look there and be like, oh yeah, it's good. Like, that's a good category to own. It's a good category to have, and so that's another trap, I think.
Oh yeah, and especially the more strikeouts you get, the less balls in play there are, so the less likely they are to score runs. So going on, this is something new we added, and a lot of it was because of your team. We are going to mention the stats that I feel you are very league average in. It's not a bad thing. It's not a great thing, but it's something that you're going to be competitive week in and week out. You're not going to really ever struggle there. And the three categories that I have for you are runs, RBIs, and saves plus holds. There's not a whole lot to talk about here. You have guys, Christian Yelich, Joey Gallo, Austin Riley, who projects to have a decent year. You've got four guys with 90 RBIs or more. Same with runs. You're right up there with a bunch of guys close to triple digits in runs. And so I think your offense is going to be pretty steady. You're not going to have to worry too much about that. Yeah. And even on the lower side of your offense, you can always swap those guys in and out for waiver wire guys that come up. And then saves and holds, I feel you're going to be competitive, because you don't have a ton of relief pitching that's going to pile up 30 or 40 saves and holds, but you have enough guys who are going to chip in here and there, plus your high-end Craig Kimbrell, Jose Leclerc, Blake Trinan, guys that can still eat them up and are in good teams. So I like that for you.
Yeah, I'll be totally honest here. Runs wasn't a category I didn't know was a thing until like last year. So I would look at, because it's Fantrax's fault first off, because if you look at the live scoring, the runs category is a different color than all the other ones. I'm pretty positive it's like green compared to all the other categories.
If you're leading it, it usually is.
It's maybe I was leading runs. I had no idea. No, it's definitely different.
The one thing that is usually different during the season is hits. It's usually there on the left side, just because even though, because it keeps track of it, even though we don't. It'll show at bats and it'll show hits usually, just because of the fact that it's something that is still there. Because some people use it as a tiebreaker if you have the same average, so it still tracks that.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so you know what? And also, here we go.
Because it won't show it here, but if you go to last year's, it would show you'd be able to see it a little bit better.
Yeah, I think, and so Fantrax changed the way it looks too after the first year. I'm pretty sure, like after our first year using it, the whole live scoring system kind of looks different. I'm pretty sure that the live scoring of the first year, the runs was a different. I'm not good. I don't know, but I'm pretty positive the runs was a different color, and so I didn't think it. I didn't think it mattered. Unless because they changed the way a Fantrax looked, and so I think after the first year, I had no idea runs really mattered. So I'm slowly working my way back, still not really paying attention to it. So it's good to hear that I'm averaging it. But yeah, I'm positive that Fantrax had a different color in the first year we used this, and so I thought
that would make sense. I completely understand why you'd feel that way. So moving on to your weaknesses, the three categories that I would describe as a weakness for you are average, ERA, and WHIP. The reason, obviously, average, we kind of discussed it earlier. You've got big home run hitters. You've got a few guys like Christian Yelich, Jorge Polanco, guys that'll be an asset, because I believe league average for batting average is around 270. So you've got some guys that are above it, but then you've got guys, Brian Anderson, Yasiel Puig, Jonathan Scope, that are below the 273-ish mark. So you're going to struggle at times, but you've got the power to make up for it. Average, obviously, you get guys that get on a tear and they can bat 400 for the week, so you'll have that opportunity. But I feel like average will be a little bit more of a one that'll swing for you week to week. And same kind of goes with ERA and WHIP, because you've got a good top-end rotation, but then you have some guys, Reynaldo Lopez and Herman Marquez. He's way better inside Coors, if I remember right, but worse away from it. And same with Robbie Ray. Yeah. He's a guy that he can be great or he can be bad. So
yeah, exactly. And then Julio
Teheran.
Teheran. That's way easier to say than it looks like. So I remember him too. Wasn't he terrible?
He's a guy that fluctuates a lot too. Maybe him.
Yeah, I had no idea he was.
He signed with them early January, I believe, something like that. So
cool.
Obviously
I had no idea.
The move to the American League is tougher, especially facing the Astros. Get in that every once in a while. So.
Well, I'd like to say that actually my team, I've hired Carlos Beltran, and so just let you know, I'm expecting a really good year out of my hitters, just because I'm not saying anything more than that. However, I'm expecting a big year out of my hitting squad.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, especially if you're hiring Carlos Beltran. He was available, so may as well bring him in when you can.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, he's just sitting right behind me, just managing my fantasy team. I got a trash can ready, at any time.
So we've gone through your strengths, your weaknesses. Now, if you were going to predict where you'd finish, where do you think you see yourself this year? It doesn't have to be a specific place. Do you see yourself in the playoffs finally? Do you see? Because I think you made it the first year. Do you see?
Yeah, I think I lit my way.
So do you see yourself back in the playoffs? Do you see yourself reaching a certain point, whether it's the championship round, whether it's the semifinals? Where do you see yourself ending this year?
I think that, I'm going to do the classic Mac thing in fantasy. That's what I do every single year, I think, is I get to the end. I get into the playoffs, bottom seed, and I maybe win the first round miraculously and then immediately lose the second round. Now, I'm not going to say I'm gonna put this out here. John is the go-to guy for choking the playoffs, but I think I'm a low-key choking the playoffs kind of guy because I'll get there and immediately lose. And it's not like my teams are as good as yours, so it looks worse on you. However, I'm always just kind of... It's a classic Minnesota Wild thing. Oh, let's get in the playoffs, a wild card, and they immediately lose the Blackhawks or some shit like that. Like, it's... So I honestly think something like that will happen again. My offense is good. Pitching is good. It fully depends. I know I'm gonna make some moves here. I'm forced to because I own too many outfielders, and I know I'll make some moves for hopefully maybe a little bit of young or some solid relief pitching there. Maybe bringing a little more just overall pitching wise. Getting rid of these outfielders I own. I have to bring in another catcher. I was just looking at my team because Jorge Alfaro obviously is consistent, will play, is fine, is good. La Tortuga, on the other hand, was a gamble I took. It didn't really work out. Who knows where he will play this year? I don't know what his whole deal is. I love him as a human being. I love him as a player. However, fantasy-wise, he isn't that good. He won't really do me any good, so I need another catcher. He'll stay on the team, though. I'm not going to get rid of him if you're thinking about that. He's staying on the team for sure. He's a team guy, team morale guy, locker room guy. But I don't know. I need another catcher for sure. So outfielders. I think I get in the playoffs again. I know for a fact I'll do better than Chris. But yeah, I think playoffs is where I'm going. Hopefully, if I have to say, I'd say first round exit. I don't know number wise where I'm going to end up. I think it's bottom seed again, just because that's how the team looks like. I don't know if I'm willing to trade the items needed for big names to compete with you and Kevin and Keith. But so I think I get my way in again, bottom seed, and get fucking shot in the back of the head.
Well, and you like we talked about, you've got some good high end pitching, so you don't always have to chase that high end pitching and pay the high price. Sometimes you just have to find some of those breakouts, and especially in our league, you can always find pitching.
Marquez did that to me the first year. Exactly. Like if I scour the players, the free agent market, do my research, beat John to some people, I think that I'll have a chance then. If I beat John, the only way I come out on top in the playoffs is if I beat John in the free agent market. However, the amount of baseball research and the amount of work you put into baseball, anything, is ridiculous. And so I don't think I'll beat you there. I think you probably already own half the people that I would think about picking up in probably 2 months. But, this guy kind of sounds interesting. Oh, shit, John owns him? He picked him up 3 months ago? Oh, okay, cool.
And say, it's not just me. You've got Keith and Jared and Chris Barnes, too, that are pretty knowledgeable on that end as well. I know, especially Keith and Jared are usually, if there's a guy I'm looking to grab, it's always those two.
You're the most fun to poke fun of, though. You're the most fun to poke fun of. Of course, I know that. Like, it's always to go straight to you with baseball knowledge. Those guys are low. Like, those guys are kind of behind the scenes, obviously good, but it's you that everyone's the most vocal about. But I think the Tides, give us another year. I think the Tides will turn. I think you'll go back and be good and end your heel turn. And I think either Keith or Kevin go for the heel turn next.
I think.
Or Sean. Honestly, Sean might.
Oh God, especially Sean being back. I could easily see that. Plus, Kevin with him beating me last year, I know he's going to use that a lot this year. With his one home run and one RBI win in the playoffs, he's going to use that, and I know he's excited about it. So, I completely agree with your prediction. I think you're going to make the playoffs. It's going to be fun to watch you and Barnes duke it out because he was right there as well with you. You guys were very close in the end. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be between you and him, and if Steve sets his lineup, he's another tough team that's going to be up there. But I think you make the playoffs. Where it goes from there, who the hell knows? Because the playoffs are 1 week, and especially that end of the year, it could be as simple as whether you're facing Kevin or whoever it is. If they lose a couple of guys to injury, or you get a couple of guys that just played really, really well, you could easily sneak by. But you've got an exciting team, especially with Yelich and Verlander. You've got that veteran presence now that you needed.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, and also with my team's young. I try to keep my teams fairly young, which I think hurts me in the end because I keep just going young and I don't really let them progress. But the team is, I got some fairly young, talented guys. Austin Riley, is he 20? He's 22. I thought he was like 23, 24. All right, cool. He's 22. Willie Calhoun. Like, I got young, exciting guys where I think if I kind of let this simmer for a second, do good this year, I think I'll be strong next couple of years. I just obviously make a couple moves to bring a couple more pieces, but I think that going forward, I need to let the team simmer, get rid of Nick Markakis, and go from there.
So looking at that, talking about how you've got some of the guys like that, let's look at your Pagoda projections for 2020. And I was honestly surprised just because you did add some high-end guys where you sat. So looking at 2020 for your Pagoda projections, you are 28.9 wins above replacement, and that ranked 9th in our league, and 21 wins above replacement for pitching, which ranked 8th. Now, I'm actually pulling it up here just because I have it set in the other document, just how close you were to moving up. And the biggest thing is you have the high-end talent. You have the Christian Yelich's, you have the Joey Gallos, you have the Verlanders, the Clevengers, and more what it is, it's on the back end of your team. Guys like, not even Manny Margot, but guys like, who else did I put in here? Jorge Soler is actually a three win above replacement. Guys like Colin Moran, Hunter Dozier. Jonathan Scope was one that kind of was a little above replacement, so that's kind of where you got hurt. But you're only 3 wins behind the Yankees in terms of offense, and then 1.1 wins behind the Yankees in terms of pitching. So you're not that far off. All you have to do is kind of find some guys that break out in the end, especially you know where your weaknesses are, so you know what to look for, which is great.
Yep, exactly. You talked about how we talked about this previous, is that because I was surprised by that. I was like, 9th, really? Like 9th hitting? Like I thought. I look at my bats, I'm like, I look pretty good. But like you said, that brings in defense too, which in fantasy because I don't necessarily watch a lot of baseball outside of this, so I strictly am only looking at offensive stats when I'm trading for guys. And obviously because defense doesn't matter, so why would I look at defense? But like, I was like, oh wow, really 9th? But then you realize kind of like, oh, okay, defense plays into it. I sometimes am kind of trying to snipe categories here and there when I trade for guys. So maybe that's all they excel in. And then in the real life, they suck at defense, and so it hurts my overall WAR rating. But, okay, Jorge Soler, by the way. What, this is way off topic, but, like, what does he do next year? Is he, like, why was he so incredible last year? Why was he so good? And, like, what does he like? Because I look at his previous. I don't know how I got him. I'm pretty sure it was.
It was not from me. I don't remember who owned him previously, but I know either he was a free agent pickup or a very cheap trade because he was not great the year before. And while we actually talk, I'm pulling up his previous stuff. But one of the things is his hard hit rate. Hard hit rate was up from 41% to almost 50%. So half the time he's hitting the ball, he's killing it. Okay. And then his average exit velocity went up by 3 miles per hour. So that's a huge jump.
Was last year a contract year for him?
He was. He's been on the Royals the last 2 years, I think. But he.
Okay. Because that's a contract year.
Well, the big thing is his launch angle went from about 10 degrees to about 15.5. So obviously a better launch angle, less likely to hit line drives on the infield. And he cut down his strikeout rate a bit too. So he's a guy that everything he did last year is absolutely repeatable. Maybe not as high. His slugging maybe not as great, but still he's going to be a guy that's going to hit 35 plus home runs, which is what he was supposed to be when he first came up. So I think he's a guy that absolutely worth holding on to. And
I'm looking at the transactions here. Sorry to cut you off, but I need to cut you off because you picked him up on April 18th, dropped on April 20th, and I picked him up on April 22nd.
Oh, of course. I'm trying to forget. I'm trying to remember who I dropped him for.
It's April 20th. So if you go to your transactions, it's
last year,
you dropped him on April 20th, so yeah. I can go here, transaction history too.
I don't remember, but that was one that was, I think I just had him for a couple of days. I was like, why not? But he was one that I believed in when he first came up, and I'm glad to see him finally succeeding. I think the juice ball obviously helped him a bit with I mean, hitting almost 50 bombs on the season. I don't see him repeating that, especially in Kansas City, but he's going to be a DH, which is great. So
I didn't even know. I'm looking at your transaction history. I didn't even know that I dropped Manuel Margot.
You did?
At one point. You owned him for a little bit. Yeah, you owned him for a little
bit. Yeah, well, because he's a guy that
I totally forgot. He sucked. He was terrible last year, and so I dropped him. But like I forgot. Why did I pick him?
Because he's a guy that has power and speed, but he was with the Padres that their outfielders kind of like yours, where it's just absolutely crowded, and so they never gave him a consistent run where he would play 20 days in a row or whatever. It's okay. He'll play 2 days here, 2 days there. I mean, look at what he did last year. 59 runs, 20 stolen bases, and 12 home runs. You give him a full season, he could be a 18 home runs, 30 stolen base type guy. So
very true. Yeah, I'm looking at you just picked him up and dropped him, and then no, nothing really. You just picked him up on the 18th.
Somebody must have been hurt or something else.
Gone for $1. Yeah, because the next day you picked up relief pitching. You picked up strictly pitching from there, basically. But you got 6 pages here pickups.
I'm active, to say the least.
Jesus. God, oh my God.
So I'm excited to see how your team plays. Obviously, WAR doesn't mean shit in our league, but it was just something that I wanted to include because obviously it's kind of fun to see. Doesn't matter a whole lot, but just to see where we rank, especially seeing the Yankees as a top 3 or as the 8th in hitting, and they were, I think, 8th in pitching as well. So they were pretty consistent, but once again, lineups matter. So
exactly. So I'm hoping I'm hoping for a good year. Basically, I'm looking at Jake Lamb.
Yep.
Because I forgot I owned him. And let's see what his projections are.
Not great. I don't know if he plays all season. That's the problem with him.
Really? Yeah, he was hurt. I was pumped to own him for a little bit, and I was like, oh, now he's just hurt constantly. Like for some reason, I see I hyped him up in my own head.
He was
hyped up normally, but yeah, I'm trying to find his projections, but I'm just looking through. I'm looking through my ad drops.
So, do you have any other final thoughts on your team before we get out of here? Anything that you want to put out there for a trade block, or obviously you've mentioned outfield. There's a bunch already, so.
Oh yeah. I bid $7 for Manuel Margot. Okay, all right. This is ridiculous here. $9 for Dakota Hudson. I'm sorry. This is kind of fascinating to me, like why I picked these guys up. I bid.
Hey, Dakota Hudson worked out for you last year, though. He had a pretty good year, so.
He did. He actually did. I'm great. I'm great at picking up people. I'm assuming that Lux pickup for Dahlia was by you, so that's draft wise. So looking at my team, I have a lot of people that I am way over on reserves. So anybody looking for outfielders, I would love to trade with you. In return, I'm looking for middle infield or just other kind of whatever. It's not outfield, basically anything except outfield. So I'm looking for minors. Are we having a minor league draft?
Yeah, we will do that just like we do every year. All-Star break time is when we'll do it.
Oh yeah, if you're missing something, that's right. Okay,
and so to explain one more time, because I don't remember if I did it on the podcast with Chris or not. So we have 20 rounds. I think I actually did this off the podcast. We have 20 rounds of picks in MLB because we don't have a consistent set. Well, yeah, we have a full 20 in our minors. So if somebody doesn't have the full, like say they have 15 open spots, it'll just draft for them automatically. Once we hit our full minor leagues, it will skip whatever team is full. So that's why we have 20 rounds of picks.
Wait, so it does it? The draft is auto draft?
So
I get to pick myself. Okay,
you'll get to pick yourself.
Right, cool.
So say right now you have 6. I think I have like 8 open spots, something like that.
Yeah, I'll have 8 when I bring up.
So basically, once you fill your 8, it'll skip you because it'll say roster requirements not met. It'll automatically skip you, so that way whoever is there, we don't have to keep track of it. Fantrax will do that for us. So if somebody had no minor league players or wanted to drop everyone and just draft fresh from whoever was available, they would be able to use all 20 rounds.
Okay, cool. Okay, sweet.
So,
all right, perfect. Okay, cool. So this is now besides outside the podcast, but we're recording it, so why not clearing things up? Can I not then pick up minor leagues until the
If
draft?
somebody, once they are on the roster, say AJ Puck wasn't owned, you would be able. I'm actually going to stop the. Well, I'll fix it. Say AJ Puck wasn't owned and he got called up and said that he is okay. He's going to be with the team on Saturday, March 29th. You'd be able to pick. You'd be able to bid for him on March 29th once he is on the team. He doesn't have to debut. Once he is called up, cool. You can pick them up. Or if they've made their major league debut.
Okay, once they're called up, but they're still in the minors.
Right, but if they've made their major league debut, you can pick them up.
Okay, cool. It just gets confusing between like hockey and stuff. Because hockey, if they're in the minors or in juniors, you can pick them up. But okay, perfect. I just need a refresh. I'm still recording. I'm. Why not keep that all in? It clears a lot of air up. I'm excited for my team. I need anything besides outfield. I'll trade away all my outfielders, besides a few of them. I'm excited for Buxton this year.
He's a guy that we've been waiting on for a long time. It'll be interesting to see how he does.
I've been waiting so long. So I'm hoping he does well this year because I know he's up and down last year. But other than that, and I think it's been a good episode.
It's been almost an hour, but I'm okay with that. It was a lot of good conversation.
Jeez, right. I talk a lot. Yeah, I know. All right.
It was good talking to you, and the next team we'll have is the Dodgers, and I will reach out to you, Barnes, soon to see if you want to join me, and if not, maybe you'd want to join me again, Mac?
Yes, I'd be down for sure. Let me know.
All right. But if you don't have anything else, why don't we get out of here and let everyone get into this episode? It was fun.
Perfect. It was fun. Have a nice night.
You too.